youngest child, and I am the last one living at home. And while I miss having my sisters and brother around, I have to say it's kind of nice not having to share my parents with anyone but you. My parents started Scentsy when I was only 2, so I don't really remember a time before Scentsy. And when you're a kid, you think your life and family is normal because you don't know anything else and you have nothing to compare it to. It wasn't until I was 7 or 8 at our first big reunion in Salt Lake in 2009 that I realized my family wasn't so ordinary. We opened a door in the convention center and a consultant gasped and she started crying when she saw my parents. Things like that happen all the time. People gasping and crying when they see my parents or just being really elated that they get to meet and thank them in person. But no matter where we are or who we're with, my mom will always make time for a hug. She will always make time to take a selfie, and she will always take time to comment on your Facebook post. And that's because that's who she is. You see her as caring, loving, and friendly, and you're not wrong. But I see her as the brave woman who, even though she's freaked out by fish, went snorkeling and saw a giant sea turtle. Or the woman who ate a snail with a toothpick in Morocco. Or the woman who is terrified to join me on the world's steepest zipline in New Zealand, but did it anyway because it was important to me. Or the woman who taught me to think big and go after what I want. You may see her as a friend who happens to be the CEO of an international company, but I also see my best friend and mom. Aww. Please welcome my mom, Heidi Thompson. That always gets me a little teary.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to No Limits. Every year, I put so much of my heart into this that usually means sharing things that inspire me personally and motivate me to be the best version of myself. And every year, I second guess myself until it's all over. And in just a few minutes, it's going to be all over. After all, I only get one chance a year to speak at SFR. And I want so badly to make it count for all of you. Over the years, I've talked about many things. The year before we opened in the UK, I talked about our trip to Israel in 2010 and how it affected my feelings about generosity. At our 2012 Region 1 event, when our daughter Sarah was going off to university, I talked about things that I wanted her and all Scentsy consultants to remember. In 2014, I talked about Scentsy Spirit, how it's represented by our beloved star, and how we need to embrace childlike wonder, like stopping to chase the fireflies. That helps us develop contagious optimism, which brings connection, love, and kindness, and that leads to hope and light. This year, I want to share some things that I learned on a very special trip that Orville and I took earlier this month. As many of you know, I turned 50 on the 9th of July this year. Some consider it a milestone birthday. Orville and I aren't really big on birthday celebrations, but this one was special. And I had it in my mind that I wanted to do something that challenged me. Maybe just to prove to myself that I'm not that old yet. What I wanted to do more than anything was to walk a part of the Camino de Santiago, or in English, the Way of St. James. I was so passionate about this trek that I talked about it in my 2012 Region 1 reunion talk. Take a look. Some of my bucket list items, or not. Yeah, it's there. I talked about it for sure. As my 50th birthday approached, there were many things telling us now was really not the right time. I was way too busy. The summer has been crazy with 3 incentive trips and now 3 reunions. We only had a couple weeks when we could squeeze something in, and Grace was a leader at her very last girls' camp right in the middle of that window. And on top of that, I have a huge personal project due in August. It's actually going on right now, and I'm not even there to do it. Where I chair a committee that is building a life-size replica of the Tabernacle of Moses. And it will be displayed for various faiths in our community, and they can tour and learn about it. So walking was the last thing that Grace wanted to do, but I didn't want to leave her home alone. So there were many obstacles that we had to get to the Camino, to overcome to get to the Camino. When we came back from Marco Island, instead of heading to Spain like we had planned, we seriously considered changing our plan to walk the Camino back to someday. In the end, our great team at the home office stepped up and not only did everything at Scentsy that needed to get done, they volunteered to help build the tabernacle. Pretty cool. So Orville and I were able to buy last-minute plane tickets. We booked one night at a hotel to make sure that we had a place to stay when we arrived. We packed an extra pair of clothes and our bare necessities into our backpacks, and we headed to Spain. We decided to plan the rest of the trip when we got there. But I'm so glad that we went. We walked the Camino for 5 days, covering 64 miles. We chose to hike on the original pilgrimage route called the Camino Primitivo, from the city of Lugo to the city and cathedral of Santiago de Compostela. We carried everything with us. My pack was about 7 kilograms, and Orville's was a little heavier because he also carried a few kilos of Lulu the Lamb Buddy clips to give to friends that we passed along the way, or to bring for others to bring home as gifts. So we walked for many hours a day along roads, sleepy villages, quaint little farms, picturesque paths, and eucalyptus forests. It is said that if you search for it on the Camino, whatever it may be, you'll find it. We could have had a service take our packs from town to town, but I wanted to push myself, to prove to myself that I could do it. And I'm so glad that Orville was happy to go along with me. We walked 5 stages because that was all the time that we could afford, but it was long enough for us to receive our official pilgrim certificate when we finished. We hiked from Lugo to Ferreira, Ferreira to Melita, Melita to Arzua, Arzua to O Pedruzo, and O Pedruzo to Santiago de Compostela. Walking the Camino is like living life's most valuable lessons in action. Each pilgrim's experience is different. While we were walking, I was thinking about all of you, your personal journeys, and this amazing Scentsy journey that we are on together. So today, I want to share some of the lessons that I learned along the way with all of you. On day one, clean and rested, we put on our packs and we just started walking. After all of the years of thinking about it, we were finally doing it. You can dream for a lifetime, but eventually you have to take action to make the dream mean anything at all. We walked 16 miles from Lugo to Ferreira, over several ridges and valleys. Google Maps said the distance that we wanted to cover that day would take 5.5 hours. It ended up taking us 9. But whenever we travel, I love visiting UNESCO World Heritage Sites. And the Camino has several, including an intact Roman wall and an ancient Roman bridge. So of course, I had to stop for some pictures. And there was also a butterfly along the way, which I view as a messenger from my mom. Aww. She was with us. Thank you. That she was with us on the trip. So I wanted to stop and take in the moments along the way. So that's why it took us a little bit longer. As we stopped to talk, we also ran into a man who was showing his little grandson a newborn calf that had just been born. And we didn't understand each other at all. We didn't speak the same language, but we understood each other. It was the coolest thing. We gave him a buddy clip to spread some Scentsy spirit in Spain. A little while later, I left the path and walked through a vibrant field of orange poppies. And so, yes, we took our time. It was hard, and it was hot and sweaty. I mean, sunny. Our hips hurt on the 1,800-foot climb, and our shins hurt on the descent. We had never walked that long before, and we had never walked carrying backpacks. But we made sure that we found moments of joy in our journey. And in hard work, the greatest joy comes from lesson number 1. Lesson 1, be sure to rest. It may seem odd that one of the first lessons I learned was to rest. We had just started, but we were doing something new and very hard. Maybe you think you can get more done if you put your head down and work hard and you skip the rest, but that's an illusion. Pushing past a previous limit will teach you that you need to rest along the way. The Bible tells us that even God rested. If you don't rest, you'll burn out and quit. Don't quit, rest. As we were coming up on mile 5, we hadn't seen a toilet, a drink, or a bench since we had started, and I was getting worried. This was the time that I realized that we probably would have benefited from a guidebook. When I was about out of gas, we came upon a rest stop, and it had a very clean bathroom, some vending machines, and a cool spot to drop our packs. After 15 minutes, we were completely refreshed and ready for another 5 miles. It was magic. You can't find joy in your journey carrying your world on your back if you don't rest. Lesson 2, find your shade. Walking for the first time with a pack is physically demanding, especially when the sun beats down on you. The sun saps your energy. As we walked, sometimes we would be out in the open, but just about the time that I would feel the urge to complain, I would see a line of trees or a shady portion of the path up ahead, and I would get excited. Life is hard, and we all need a little shade. Without shade, we can't appreciate our time in the sunshine. A few minutes of cool shade lifted our spirits and helped us push on. In life, shade takes many forms. Scentsy is our shade. You know our story. When we were tired and broken, God gave us Scentsy. So let me ask you some questions. What is your shade? Is it a friend that you can lean on? Maybe a spouse to share your burdens? A mentor that shows you a better way? Are you like us? Is Scentsy your shade? Your happy place? Your rest from the burdens of life? If it is, you will be more successful at it. If you struggle to find your shade, focus on being the shade for others. Helping others is often the most refreshing part of life. Lesson 3. Things aren't always what they seem. Twice along the way, I had hallucinations. I saw the biggest white flower I'd ever seen that turned out to be a plastic bag on a stick. And the largest, we call them zucchinis, courgette. Yes. The largest one I'd ever seen, and it turned out to be a rolled up piece of green and yellow tarp. Yeah. So both times my mind played tricks on me, trying to convince itself that something obviously not true was real. And we do this to ourselves all of the time. We tell ourselves a story that is not true. We have limiting beliefs about ourselves or others. Limiting beliefs warp how we experience the world. They inhibit our ability to see our true potential, and that keeps us from our true path. My own limiting beliefs and excuses could have kept me from the Camino altogether. I'm too old to walk the Camino, or I'm not strong enough to carry a backpack for 64 miles for 5 days. If I had stopped to believe any of my own negative thoughts, I would have missed the adventure of a lifetime. After 3 weeks, about 3 weeks ago, we pre-announced Region 1's 2019 Shining Star finalists. And the Shining Star Award is a little different in Region 1 than it is here. But I loved seeing how much all of you love and support Region 1's Shining Star nominees. Carla Hunter was one of the finalists, and she posted about her nomination. Carla was initially shocked to be nominated. She said, "I'm shy, awkward, I have anxiety in groups of people. I seriously have to work extra hard at my business because I just don't have that bubbly personality like everyone else." But wait, she also said, "I want more people to see that they can do things, even when their minds tell them no. When something doesn't work, I change it. I never complain. I love my job, and I love helping other women see their potential. My anxiety doesn't define who I am. My anxiety is the reason I am successful." We are so grateful for the example Carla set and how she flipped the script in her head to find her own awesomeness. So work through your limiting beliefs. Smash your excuses. They don't serve you, they limit you. Lesson 4. This is a good one. Say you're sorry. Right after we started out on the second day, Orville and I had a really stupid fight. The kind where it doesn't matter what you're fighting about, you just know you have to be right when you aren't. So I'll save you the details because you would just laugh. Saying you're sorry, though, is so important. Not saying you're sorry limits you in your relationships and in your own personal growth. And it could have made for a very long, unhappy day for both of us. Admitting when you're wrong and learning from it helps us grow. And that's easy for me to say, but it's very hard for me to do. Is anybody else in that boat?
Yep.
You don't have to raise your hand. I have a very hard time saying I'm sorry, and Orville knows that better than anybody. We tend to view apologies as a sign of weak character, but in fact, they require great strength. Apologies have the power to restore damaged relationships. And this is a big lesson for me. And it was hard for me to say I'm sorry, but I did it. And Orville was immediately back on my side, and our attitude switched from limiting our joy to enhancing our joy. We were able to walk hand in hand in full support of each other. So saying you're sorry helps you stay humble, and it helps you grow. Say you're sorry when you're wrong. This doesn't mean, though, that you should apologize for being you. Never apologize to yourself or anyone else for who you are. But when you're wrong, it's the fastest way to turn a limiting situation into a great experience. Lesson 5, avoid the cow pats. You guys call them cow pats? Okay. Piles of cow poop, right?
Yeah.
The Camino takes you through tiny villages and farms with lots of cows. Where there are cows, there are cow pats. Now you could say yuck, cow pats. But to get to your destination, you have to go around them. Well, hopefully you go around them and not through them. Yeah, that would be pretty gross, huh? So life is full of cow pats. It can be gossip, meanness, small-mindedness, nasty Facebook posts, unachievable airbrushed perfection on Instagram that makes us feel bad about ourselves. Go around it, not through it. Do not step in them. Ugliness, like negativity, meanness, and self-doubt, sticks in your brain like poop on your shoes. If you let it in, you will track it everywhere you go. The way is not easy, and cow pats are everywhere. Don't make life harder by carrying crap with you. Okay. Yeah. Okay, lesson 6. Lighten your load, but a heavy load builds strength. When you know you have to walk 64 miles in 5 days carrying everything on your back, you're careful about what you pack. We packed a single change of clothes for evenings, and we launder our hiking clothes every night. So all of our pictures were wearing the same clothes. And we only took absolutely what we needed, except for some silk bedding liners that we never used to keep the bed bugs away, and a very heavy selfie stick that Orville carried the whole way. I can guarantee we are all carrying too much of something. Lighten your load by getting rid of things that weigh you down. Leave resentment, self-doubt, criticism, and feelings of unworthiness behind. They are too heavy to carry. Don't underestimate the cumulative weight of a lot of little things. They will weigh you down too. On the other hand, embrace the fact that a heavy load builds strength. What feels impossible to carry on day one gets easier. While it is wise not to carry unnecessary baggage, being unwilling to take on our full potential is also limiting. Eliminate excess baggage so you can carry more that will help you reach your #best life. Lesson 7, take your socks off.
Yep.
We traveled all 5 days without a single foot injury or even a blister. There are lots of stories about injuries along the Camino, and we avoided them by doing something simple. We took our socks off several times a day. That's kind of gross, huh? When you hike long distances, stopping to air your feet out and putting your feet up makes a huge difference. And this isn't the same as rest. This is true self-care. If you don't care for your feet, your most important tool while you're hiking, you aren't going to get very far. If you don't take care of yourself each day, you aren't going to get very far either. So take your socks off, spiritually, emotionally, physically. Take care of yourself every day because life is a really long hike. On the 3rd day, I started to get sick with a horrible cold, which was just another obstacle. But we still had more than half of the Camino to walk, and there were so many lessons still left to learn. Lesson 8, the lesson of the hills. First, There are hills that nobody tells you about. You can look at apps and websites and maps that tell you the way is mostly flat, but that isn't the case. And we learned the hard way. In most cases, the terrain was most definitely not flat. Every journey is different, and what is easy for someone else may not be easy for you. There will always be hills that nobody tells you about. And sometimes the downhill is harder than the uphill. When you climb up a hill, all you can think about is how bad your thighs burn, how heavy your pack is, and you can't wait to reach the top and finally go down. What you don't realize when you're going up is that going down is sometimes harder. Your shins burn, your knees ache, and your feet twist in your shoes. For every hill ascended, there is always a descent. If we are going to keep moving and growing, we have to learn to take the downs and the ups. So, plan to get to the top, but also know there's a lot more work ahead. And some of the work is on the downhill side. But keep in mind, wherever there's a downhill, there's an uphill. Every road has its own challenges, and sometimes you don't like the uphill or the downhill work. Conquering challenges makes way for transformation. The uphills and the downhills take on their own rhythm. On the uphill side, you get that sense of accomplishment and can see clearly all the way around. The view is the reward of the uphill climb. Remember this lesson when you come to awards night in just a few hours and cheer on your friends and your teammates as they are recognized. They made it up the hill and down the hill probably many times. If you're experiencing a downhill, know that an uphill is in front of you. No matter how difficult or how great the challenge, you can do it, and it's worth it. Wherever you are on your journey, I'm so proud of you. Lesson 9, see how far you've come. So many people will tell you to never look back, that you should always look ahead. But here's the thing, sometimes you have to turn around to look at the ground that you've covered. When I turned around to see how far we had come on that 16-mile day, I was amazed and emotional about how beautiful it was. And this was one of the many times that I thought about all of you and Scentsy and how full of hills and valleys the last 15 years have been, and how amazed I am when I look back. And oh, how beautiful it is now that I can see it from a distance. If we never look back, we never get to see how far we've come. So, take time to recognize how much you have already accomplished and grown. Lesson 10, trust the arrows along the way. I thought about this trip for many years, but when it came time to actually walk it, we really didn't plan our route in advance. 99% of pilgrims use some sort of guidebook. We were the 1%ers. A guidebook shows you how to walk someone else's journey. Sometimes you need to trust the yellow arrows along the way. There were times that we just kept going because we didn't know where to stop. Other times the path split and we didn't know which path to take. Not knowing whether we were on the right path was a challenge. In some places, the arrows that marked the way were hard to recognize. In others, there were 2 signs pointing 2 different directions. So what I learned was this. When you think there are no signs, just stay on the path. It's been traveled for thousands of years. The sign is there, you may just need to walk a little further. Where signs are obvious, sometimes you get to choose the way, knowing that in the end, all paths lead to Santiago de Compostela. While clear directions make it easier, there are many ways to get there, and you get to choose. Have confidence in the fact that thousands of people have traveled the way before you, and they have created the path. You can follow them. I found this great article by Laurel Vespi on StoneCircleCoaching.com, and it's full of tips and tricks about walking the Camino. And I want to share it with you because it reminds me so much of building a Scentsy business. She says, in life, we sometimes think that we need to blaze a new trail, but there's nothing wrong with playing follow the leader. Learning from people who are already doing what you want to do can often fast track things for you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Discover who has gone before you. Study what and how they did it, and then use that wisdom to your advantage. Lesson 11. Pain is a source of strength. Walking for 5 days is painful. My hips hurt, my feet hurt, my back hurt where my pack was rubbing against it, my shoulders were sore, I was physically tired, and in the most pain my body had ever felt since giving birth. I was shuffling my feet, my achy limbs, and my sweat-soaked back. It was horrible. But I'm not complaining. As is often said, pilgrims are grateful, they don't complain. On any long journey, pain is inevitable. But to get to your final destination, you have to work through it, embrace it, and grow with it, grow from it. Whether the pain is physical or emotional, it's an important part and necessary part of life. It's what you do with your pain that defines your journey. You get to decide whether you will quit because of your pain or take the challenge and grow through it. On the Camino, we chose to grow through it. I was not quitting. And every day we had the reward of getting our travel book stamped. So on the last day, we could get our certificate of completion. Each hour, we were that much closer to our goal. Lesson 12, don't hurry to get there. Everything we read told us that the line at the pilgrim office to get our certificates, that it could be very long, like 2 hours or more. But we decided to take our time and enjoy nature. Our path led through the woods that day, and it was so beautiful. It was completely overcast, which was such a blessing. And we took lots of pictures. We made it to the town in plenty of time to beat the crowds and to get our certificates. And to finally take photos with the selfie stick that Orville carried the entire way. Sometimes when you try to move too fast, you miss the beauty that is all around you and the opportunity to truly connect with other people. The straight, fast line isn't always the best. There are times when a slower pace works best. In the end, you still end up where you want to be, just happier and with better connections to yourself and others. So, if you're impatient with yourself because you haven't reached director yet, or maybe superstar director, or been able to quit your full-time job or reach that one special goal, take a deep breath and take your time. You will get there. If you believe in yourself, take action and stick with it. I posted on Instagram the week before we left for SFR in Austin, and I asked, why do we let things limit us? What if we lived life with no limits? If you knew there were no limits to what you could achieve, do, or become, would you still be doing the things that you're doing? Consultant Kelly Tenney commented. She said, it's hard to dream of doing things because they don't seem tangible until you are introduced to someone who you relate to who's doing things outside of your limitations. And their actions create a spark of passion or desire in their heart. For me, walking the way of St. James wasn't something I even thought of doing until I connected with the story in the movie The Way. And who knows what spark or desire my experience will light in each of you. If you want to live a no-limits life, find someone who you relate to, who is doing things outside of your limitations. Walking the Camino was an ambitious goal. I almost talked myself out of it, but it helped to have the support of others. Our Chief of Staff, Sam Johnson, played a huge role. A year ago, Sam put the walk on our calendars between Marco Island and SFR. Every time we went to put something on the calendar, during that time, he would remind me of the walk. Every week leading up to it, he reminded me and encouraged me that it was important. And I'm so grateful to Sam for that push he gave us. It's also wonderful to get to share my goals and dreams with Orville. This trip was my dream that became my goal, but he was happy to support me in it and to see it become a reality. I love you. It is a trip that has transformed us and how we see ourselves. We met a lot of people on the way who were journeying alone. And what a brave thing to do, hike out there all by yourself. But I learned that on the Camino, no one is ever really alone. There are always people that are traveling the path, and some stop and chat, some become best friends. Kind of sounds like Scentsy, doesn't it? Yes. At Scentsy, nobody is ever really alone. We are bound together by our collective desire to contribute more than we take, to set and achieve crazy goals, and to be adventurers on the way together. It's just in our blood. There's a song by Shawn Mendes, I'm sure you guys have heard it. It's called In My Blood, and I love the lyrics. He says, "Sometimes I feel like giving up, but I just can't. It isn't in my blood." And I think it sums up our Camino walk and the entire 15-year history of Scentsy. We could have given up in 2004 when we were $700,000 US in debt, but we didn't. We suited up. We hit every uphill climb and every descent, and we're still hitting those hills today because the way never really ends. It's a lifelong journey. The difference now is that we have an amazing home office team and all of you on the journey with us. So I'm going to show you something in my backpack. It's something that I did not travel with. I did not carry this to Spain with me, not physically anyway. Let's see if I can get it out. Okay, it's a balloon, right? What do you think that could mean? Now I have a runny nose, I'm sorry. So, no matter how much helium it contains, a balloon won't go anywhere unless you let it go, yeah. So it's limited until you let it go. Let go of the string, let go of fear, let go of I can't. They won't let me actually release it in here, sorry. So pretend it's flying. And the balloon has no limits. Maybe. Maybe not this one. So we won't stop climbing. We don't quit. We walk the way together because it's in our blood. Thank you.
How awesome is she?
It's kind of a wimpy balloon.
You did a great job. Thank you. There is something that I think they may want to see, and hopefully they've got it queued up. It's kind of a surprise. Do you have the
our blooper reel
video to show?
Okay, I think you have announcements though first.
No, we're going to do the video then to start the Camino.
Here we
Look
go.
at this. Don't get run over.
We're in Lugo. Turn it off. Ice cream for breakfast on your birthday.
So I just looked it up. We have 15 miles to go. We're about a half an hour in.
Yeah. Okay, so we have another 900 feet to climb still. And we're only at 8.6 miles. We're only like halfway down.
Half.
But I'm not complaining. Okay, guys. We've made it 13.3 miles and we're dying. This is not easy. Here I am, and here's Orville. Dragging him. So we've rested for a little bit, and now, what are we gonna do?
We're going to conquer this hill.
We're gonna conquer it. We're gonna knock it out. Okay, see if we survive till the end of today.
He says, look at that beautiful flower. I'm hallucinating.
So, nasty, sorry about that. But we can't stop for very long. We just stopped to look at some flowers. And when you stop, you stiffen up, and that makes it hard to start again. Okay, it's 81 degrees out. We've walked 12.06 miles, and I cannot tell you how excited I am to get in the shower. You just have to keep telling yourself to put one foot in front of the other, because you're in so much pain and sore. I think I have a new appreciation for, are we there yet? Okay, start now, another day. Today's July 12th, and it's our third day. We're gonna walk about 10 miles. You'll notice we're wearing the same clothes every day, because they are our sweaty hiking clothes. Different hat. The smell here is amazing. Oh, I wish I could bottle it up. We are Scentsy. It's an eucalyptus forest. It smells so fresh. Going up a small hill. Okay, that's a little bit big, but I can do it. Loop leads to cows. Looks like they're going on a walk this morning. We're starting our way out of town, Arzua. We're leaving Arzua.
Day 4.
Day 4. How many? We have like
20 kilometers.
20 kilometers. Ooh. I'm a little sore. How about you?
A little bit, yes.
Yeah, a little bit. So I found a new favorite ice cream. It's so yummy. It has little bits of crunchy stuff inside. And I'm gonna be sad when I can't get this anymore. I think I've had one every day.
At least.
Okay, we found a little friend along the way. Hi, Katie. Come here. Come here. Kitty.
Okay,
My phone's gonna die.
so we just got through with the Pilgrim office and we got our certificates.
Woohoo!
We did it.
We did it. It was hard. I'm not gonna say it was easy.
It was wonderful, I thought. Wonderfully hard. Just what we wanted. Okay, happy birthday, Heidi.
Thank you.
That was kind of fun, huh?
Do that again, you think? Like, but do the whole way this time?
I thought you just went.
No, like the whole trail is like 500 miles, so.
Are you going to put that on your bucket list? No. But I would go with you if you wanted to. Okay, so we're going to do...
This is it. We just have this announcement.
Yeah.
We're done till tonight.
So what a great afternoon, don't you think?
can't wait to see you back here for awards night tonight.
Okay, don't forget to spend some time in the product display because some things are now out. And we'll kick off the evening at 7 p.m. You have 3 hours to do your thing.
We'll see you then. Take care.
Bye, guys.